You have to show them that you truly are there to help. And if you have both the confidence and you have both the authenticity, that's going to establish some level of trust. And you just got to build that trust up. And then from there, you could overcome the objections confidently because now they trust what you're going to say. Anything you say otherwise is just a sales pitch. And you have to get past that sales pitch. You have to get them to believe you're on their team, which we should be, right? And that's what I want our team to really believe in is I am here to help you find a way to accomplish your goals.
Welcome to the Ophthalmology Experience Season 2, powered by Boost Patients. Today, we're joined by Randy Schaller. He's the CEO of Tylock George Eye Care and LASIK Center. He's a service-driven leader with extensive healthcare management experience, and Randy is known for building happy, high-performing teams that drive exceptional patient care. Randy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Guido. So nice to be here, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into the topic today, but I first kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about the state of the market for refractive surgery. A lot of us are feeling the pain. We've been feeling the pain for a few years now. I'm just curious, in your market, what you're seeing this year compared to last year.
Yeah, so we're in a little bit of a unique circumstance, right? So I think the entire market is down for LASIK, PRK procedures. But with Tylock George Eye Care, our surgeon passed away about a year ago. So transitioning from a single sole proprietor practice to a new physician that's coming in, we've had to overcome several obstacles, and that being one of them. And with the market down, it makes it really tough. So we're seeing the same as pretty much everyone else. The LASIK, PRK, non-lens based procedures are down. But on the other hand, we're doing a lot more advanced lenses, a lot more cataract surgery. We're doing a lot more ICL. In fact, we're the number one ICL provider in DFW right now.
Yeah. Yeah, you pretty much echo what we're seeing. But I think we were a little insulated in the beginning of the downturn of refractive where, we were down, but not as much as most in the country. But man, this year has just taken a nosedive, and especially with that LASIK Gen Z, early millennial, 20 to 30-year-old, it's just taken a nosedive off a cliff.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right with the advanced lenses and RLE procedures, and that patient demographic seen a pretty big uptick, which has been nice. And especially with, anything cataract related, the actual cataract patients with, just basic patients, but even upgrade patients, we're still seeing them upgrade at the same rates, which is really nice and just kind of helping keeping the lights on,
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think that is? Why do you think that's that way?
I'm a Gen Xer, so I think I'm just starting to deal with the near stuff. And so I'm in that demographic. And I think my generation and maybe a little older, probably the only ones that have a little insulation because you had some savings before. So all of these price increases, they're definitely affect our generation, but there's not as much as the generation who just come out of college, can't afford to own a home, can't, having those financial struggles. And so add all of those things on top of it, you see a ton of continuous price increases this year. I think they're just, they can't even move out of their house. They're not having LASIK.
Yeah. They're still living with their parents, right? Because
Yeah.
you're right. I think that housing price is the biggest obstacle from an economical standpoint because, people our age, we bought our house 10, 15 years ago when the prices were lower and we still have more manageable payments. So we have more expendable income. So
Yeah.
I see that quite a bit in patients in our age range that have that financial flexibility to spend 10, 15,000 on a upgraded lens.
And I want to ask you about another trend and see if you guys are seeing the same, which is we're still have a good amount of leads coming in. It's just the leads are harder to convert, and there tends to be a lot of objections of actually taken the next step to schedule a consultation. And even when they come in, there's objections when it comes to moving forward with the procedure. It's just harder. It's like a tougher one. They're a little tougher to catch now. So are you guys seeing that?
Yeah, that's a good point. And for me, it's trying to figure out why that is. But I've noticed it as well. And I don't do a lot of counseling anymore, but historically, I'm a 90-95% closer. So rarely do patients ever leave my office without scheduling a procedure or scheduling their pre-op exam. This year has been tough. It's closer to 80-85%. And I'm like, oh man, what's going on? Maybe I'm being too tough on our counselors because I
Mhm.
expect them to close at a certain rate, and noticing it just with myself. And yeah, this is different. And one of the things for us is our prices have increased to where they were, a year, 2 years ago. And
Mhm.
is it finding that equilibrium on a price where your closing rate and your follow through rate matches that price? Because higher price, that's more of an obstacle for patients. And there's always that balancing act and that equilibrium point where it's like, all right, this is the right price for this closing rate.
And are you seeing more downward price pressure in the market too, just from others struggling and dropping their price?
No, it's funny that you mentioned that. I have not noticed that here in
Mhm.
DFW. It may be happening. We're kind of in the middle. I know that there are other practices around DFW that charge more than what we do, quite a bit more, and some of them that are charging quite a bit less. And
Mhm.
it's finding that value, and that's where you get into those objections and what's the most important, um, because oftentimes it's not the objection that's the most important. You really have to establish that relationship and that trust with the patient, because if they come in and they trust the doctor, they trust you, they believe in what you're saying, doesn't matter what the price is, they're going to find a way to make it happen and move forward.
Well, let's get into that. Let's get into objections because, I think you can tell me what you think, but I think that objections sometimes are a cover for something else. Price tends to be one of the one of the ones you hear a lot. But from your perspective, what are some of the most common objections that patients will give?
Yeah, so obviously you've got the financial objections, right? Those are patients that they want to have this lens, they can't find a way to pay for it, and some of them just use the financial as objection when it's really something else. So you got to dig down and figure out what it is really. You've got the fear, the unknown. They don't know what's going to happen. They've never had a procedure. You're going to cut into my eyeball. I've only got one set of eyes, and that fear of the unknown and the fear of going blind, right? So that's always a one that we have to deal with. Then you've got the timing and scheduling. So oftentimes we're talking to the patients like, well, I've got this going on. I'm going to a wedding, or I'm going
Mhm.
on vacation, so I can't be without makeup for a week, and I can't do this. And there's always something that goes along with it. And that kind of falls into the convenience and ride aspect as well. It was actually pretty funny because I've always looked at fear, financial, your friends and family influence
Mhm.
as some of the main reasons. But I was doing some research on this, and the ones that they came up with were, and it was in this order. Funny enough, it's fear, uncertainty, cost,
Mhm.
and timing. Right.
Okay.
So FUCT.
Okay. Where's gotta talk to my wife, gotta talk to my husband in there? Because we hear that one too.
Yeah, but what
Is
are
that
they going to talk
timing?
about? That's not a real objection,
It's
right?
not. It's I wanna stall, right?
It's right. So whenever they give you that objection, it's digging deep enough to say, okay, what do you need to talk to them about? Is it the financials? Do they, you know, uh, and oftentimes when I'm dealing with that, it's like, what do you want to see?
So we were talking about the objection of, "Gotta talk to my wife, gotta talk to my husband." So that's really a cover for what? Something else.
Yeah, it's always a cover for something else. There's something deeper in it. You're right. There's either stalling, they want to talk about the price, is it in their budget? And for me, it's one of my favorite objections. It's often the one that's most difficult for our counselors to overcome because they don't necessarily know what it is and they don't feel comfortable asking those probing questions to to see what's the true root cause of it. So For me, I'm like, yes, absolutely. I never make a decision without talking to my wife. I completely understand that. And then I shift on the availability and the urgency. So my tip on that is like definitely go home and talk to your wife. I wouldn't make a decision without talking to her first, talk to your husband, whatever the case is. And but I always tell patients this. As we move towards the end of the year, the availability is very scarce. We're only doing surgery 2 days a month. These dates
Mhm,
fill up really quickly. It's best to pick a date
mhm.
and at least you have something on the schedule. If you get home, you talk to your wife and she's like, no, that's not going to work. No worries. I'll call you on Monday. And if it doesn't work, we can move it out to a different date. But we know you want to do this. We
Yeah.
know you want to see better. Now it's just a matter of figuring out when is best.
Yeah, the sense of urgency approach is exactly what our sales and marketing manager teaches our sales team as well, just to try to try to well, aside from everything else, trying to create a little bit of a sense of urgency at the end when they use with that objection of I need to talk to my wife or husband. She's like, well, did they knew you were coming in, or you told them you were coming in, right? Yeah, okay. Well, what do you think that are some of the questions they may have? Do you want to? She even might go as far as say, do you want to get them on the phone? Let's maybe we can call and maybe we can knock out any questions they might have and try to probe through that. And if they're kind of like, yeah, then kind of like you said, well, okay, well, you know, we do have our availability is a little scarce and we might have an option. Why don't we just get you on? And if that doesn't work, then just let me know and just trying to get through that. But I think you also said something that I think is true too, which is sometimes surgery counselors, I don't know if it's they don't feel comfortable or they don't want to probe, but to be successful, you gotta be you can't be fearful of asking the right questions, right? I mean, there's no shame in the game. You gotta get in there and ask questions.
Right. Well, I mean, ultimately, what are we doing? Like, what's our purpose when we're talking to the patients?
Yeah, it's to guide them to the outcome that we're their guide. We need to help them
We're
see
their
better,
guides. We're the
right?
subject matter experts, right? So one of the things I talk to my counselors about, and it's a visualization technique. I see my counselors as the big brother, the big sister. We're in this industry. We have a lot more experience in surgery and counseling and everything than any one of our patients, right? So essentially, we're the big brother, and you're going down this dark path to the beach, and your little brother, or your little sister's right behind you. They're excited to go to the beach, but they're scared. There's a snake on the path. There's this on the path. It's going to be hot. Oh, the water is going to pull me in. And it's visualizing, no, it's okay. I got you. We're going to do this together. And it's walking alongside them because and I try to get the counselors to use terms like we and us because now it becomes a group effort. We're on the same team. We're doing this together and I'm here to help you accomplish your goals. I'm not here to convince you of anything. You know, it is a sales position, but I try not to sell anything.
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure out a way to help them achieve their goals. So I see it more as a problem solving mindset than anything else. They wouldn't have come in, they wouldn't have spent an hour, they wouldn't have spent 2 hours to waste their time if they didn't want to see better.
That's right.
So everybody who comes into the office wants to see better, and our job is to help them find a way to make that happen.
Right. And what about because you mentioned too earlier fear, because I want to come back to price, but I want to ask you about fear. So there's a lot of negative, or has been the past few years, negative tension on social media, negative stories about these extremely rare LASIK complications, and there's a lot of this generation is that's where they get their information, and they're coming in asking questions. What, how do you when you go about that objection of fear? Well, I'm just kind of worried, and I actually had met somebody recently who they'd come in for a consult with us. I just happened to see in the public. They saw my shirt on and they said, "Oh, I went there for your consultation." I said, "Oh, well, do you mind me asking? Did you end up having surgery?" And she's like, "No." She's like, "I was like, oh, it's okay. Well, do you mind me asking why? Why did you have surgery with somebody else?" And she said, "Oh, it's because they had a lifetime guarantee." And I said, "Okay, that's really good feedback," because she was scared that she was going to have some negative outcome complication and a lifetime guarantee, even though we know in the business that lifetime guarantee that LASIK, when it changes the shape of the cornea, it's not going to change. That there's other issues that might cause vision issues, but that's fine. So I think we're really kind of reconsider how we overcome the objection of fear. So how do you overcome when people come in there saying these kinds of things?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There's a documentary that recently came out as well, about
Mhm,
LASIK and how horrible it was, and
mhm,
it can be difficult. But to me, that fear objection starts way before they object to anything. It's really about trust. Because think about it this way, right? If your mom or your dad, who you trust implicitly, tells you to go do something, even if it's unsafe, oftentimes we're like, okay, I trust them because they would never lead me astray. They would never point me in the wrong direction. So it's much easier to overcome that fear objection if you spend the time on the front end developing the rapport and building the trust. Because now, when you tell them, all right, yes, that can happen, but it's extremely rare. It is not likely going to happen to you. You could actually speak with authority that they're going to believe, because otherwise, you're telling them these things, but if they don't trust you, it really doesn't matter. It's going to go in one ear, one and out the other because somebody else told them, um, online, or a friend or a family told them that these things can happen, and they trust that person more. You show them that you're the expert. You show them that you have the experience. You show them that you've seen thousands and thousands of these, and you could overcome that just simply with your experience.
and so starting to build that trust, where do you really starts early on, right? I mean, do you have your counselor start calling or reaching out or start building a relationship long before they come in?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. So actually we use Boost Patients, and they do all of our lead management and getting the patients
Okay.
scheduled, and they do a really good job
Well,
of helping us establish those relationships. Or but but then our counselors may reach out and sometimes they don't, but it still boils down to that front desk, that very first impression when they come in, and everything that happens after that. I mean, we had a patient yesterday that I spoke to that didn't have a great experience. She filled out some paperwork online. She came into our office, and she asked the front desk, she said, "Oh no, I filled this stuff out online." Front desk couldn't find it. So they asked the patient to fill out the paperwork again. And she's like, wait, I just spent 20 minutes filling this out for my husband and myself. And then she goes to sit down, and it was her and her husband. She wanted to be pulled back together, and our technician went out there and said that no, we only one technician can't work up two patients, which was odd to me. And we've addressed that, but that patient just lost complete trust in us because
sure.
we she had one expectation, and we appeared to be unorganized to her, and I completely agreed with her. It's something that has to be addressed. So every aspect of the practice impacts that trust level.
Mhm,
So your front desk, it's your vendors going in, or your IT system set up properly where they're not going to have to do redundant work and waste their time in her opinion. So yeah, all aspects of it are part
mhm,
of it. And then I think the other part of trust is a warm handoff, right? Because you want your doctors to really do a good job of establishing that rapport and connecting with the patient. But whenever they bring the patient to the counselor, there's got to be this handoff because essentially you're transferring trust. So they trust the doctor, they like the doctor. Now the doctor's saying, "Now I'm going to pass you off to Sally. Sally is wonderful. She's been with us for 15 years. She knows all of this. She's going to go over all the financials, and we're going to get you set up for your procedure." Now the patient implicitly trusts the counselor.
yeah. Yeah, and kind of what you said, what I preach a lot of is really understanding and mapping your entire patient journey and in terms of building trust. So the little things like you mentioned, it could be other stuff that parking, it could be what kind of reminders did they get? They filled out paperwork and it was a pain in the butt. Maybe it crashed on their phone. So all those little touch points, really understanding and mapping the journey so that you do create that value proposition so that there is, okay, well now I don't have one of these reasons to say I don't trust this place because they don't have their stuff together. Right. So you really got to understand that. And and then, you mentioned the doctor handoff. I want to ask you, what your doctors how they're doing that as far as making the handoff or how to make the recommendation. Because what I see is we have a lot of physicians in our practice, and we map conversion rates of surgery by physician, and we can see certain trends. Usually, the ones that make a stronger recommendation, those patients are more likely to have surgery with us. Especially, we talked earlier about the population, the demographic who are coming in like the RLE generation who are 45 to 50 to 55, and they're, they might be a good LASIK candidate, they might be a good lens exchange candidate. And so if you have some of the doctors like, well, you could do both, and, I'll let you talk to the counselor, and then, well, you get one there, and then they get sticker shock when you tell them the lens exchange price, as opposed to, some doctors that say, you know what, you might be okay to have both, but, if you were my family member, this is what I would recommend that you do, have a lens exchange, because you're at an age where you'd get it, and you're probably going to get a little bit longer benefit, and it's going to help you with some of that near that you're starting to deal with. So how do your doctors handle that? Do you are they kind of up? We're up and down, but where are you guys?
Yeah, we are as well. And you bring up a very good point. And sometimes it could be a double-edged sword, and we run into this as well because we intentionally don't have our doctors talk price at all. They go over what's the best medicine and what they recommend. And we really want to limit them to two options. So let's talk about those patients that are 45 to 50 that have both the option of doing a LASIK procedure, maybe do a blended monovision, or they're doing an upgraded IOL. When the doctor gives a strong recommendation, say, for example, if you're my brother or sister, I would recommend you to move forward with the
Mhm.
trifocal lens option because it's one and done. You're not going to have surgery after that. And eventually you'll never have to have cataract surgery, right? So if we don't go over pricing with them, now when they go into the counselor, they're convinced this is the procedure that I've got to have.
Mhm.
But my mindset or my budget was 4 to 5,000. Now I'm hitting them with 12 to 15,000, and it becomes that sticker shock where they will put everything off because they want to have this and they can't afford it. When if we had left it a little bit more open, they may have moved forward with LASIK. But ultimately, we want to do what's in the best interest of the patient,
Yeah.
right? And we trust our doctors implicitly to give their medical recommendation and what their opinion is, and then move forward with that. So if they end up waiting, that's fine. This is
Yeah.
really the best thing for them medically.
Quick break brought to you by Boost Patients. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a physician, a practice admin, or maybe someone on the marketing team, and you really have a singular goal. You want new patients, more consults, higher surgery volume. And oftentimes, when you want that, you think immediately about marketing, spending more on marketing, investing more in marketing. Maybe, but probably not. We've mystery shopped over 600 practices, and there's one commonality with all of them. They're not very effective and not very good at patient follow-up. So before you invest more money in marketing and more into that investment, you really need to understand how your practice is following up with new patients. So go to boostpatients.com, fill out the contact us form, and let me know that you want us to mystery shop your practice. We'll mystery shop it. We'll document how your practice follows up with your new patient lanes, and we'll share that information with you. Now back to the show.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's some education piece there too. We started advertising, in some of our targeted marketing, doing some demographic targeting with, we call it clear vision screenings for those patients who could be on the fence, and doing some education on the front end of some of the things that the doctor might talk about, giving them an idea of cost, just to kind of try to get them primed in the pump. So, what do you see as the importance of education, and at what points of the process of education is important for overcoming that sticker shock or overcoming objections or whatever else it is?
Yeah, I'm honestly I'm a big proponent of talking price early on. I want to make sure that the patients when they come in, they have a general idea of what the price is. You're going to have more qualified candidates right off the bat if they know, generally speaking, if it's going to be 4 to 5,000 or 10 to 15,000 or more, right? So I like the idea of doing it early and often. we do pre-appointment patient education. So in our patient reminders, we'll send out educational videos. Now, majority of patients don't actually watch it. But when they come into the office, the the technician will do their workup, and then before they see the doctor, while they're dilating, we'll put like a laptop or an iPad or something in front of them and have them watch the video on femtosecond laser, and it compares it to basic procedures and kind of gives them a little bit more of an education.
Mhm.
Then we don't really hit the financing aspect of it again until they go in with the counselor. So, that's an area of opportunity, I think, where we might want to do a little bit more price education before they come in as well, just to get a little bit more qualified candidates. It's going to help improve um, your conversion rate. The
Right.
downside is what?
You don't want to scare people away, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because that's always the fear is that you educate them enough so that their expectations are right, but you don't want them to disqualify themselves based off price before they get excited to see the doctor. And then because once they come in, they see the doctor, they start getting excited, they start getting, you know, then the mindset changes a little bit, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we often talk about, we're the official providers of the Texas Rangers. We often talk about it as getting an at bat. Just give me an opportunity to swing the bat, right?
Yeah.
I have if they don't come in, I have zero chance of converting them, right? I
Right.
would rather have a 5% chance on converting somebody than 0%.
Right. Yeah. So that I think that price, and I don't know, maybe you can talk a little bit about how you talk about price or how Boost talks about price whenever you're trying to book leads. You know, we've always kind of gone the range route. It's like and it but people, it seems like, especially in the last year, people are really honing in on that. Okay, well, I called this person down the road, and I want to know what the price is, and we still go with a range, and it's okay, it works. It's just they need something. So what's your strategy there?
Yeah, we do the range thing as well, especially with the cataract procedure, because you don't ever know until you verify the insurance what it's going to be. You got to check their deductible, their out-of-pocket maximum, what's their co-insurance. So it becomes really, really difficult with the cataract. With the LASIK, it's a fairly small range that we're looking at. So
Hmm.
we don't seem to have too many issues with that on the phone. And Boost does a great job of getting them on the schedule. The area that I think where we still need to focus on improving, and you tell me with your practice, is our conversion from getting them scheduled to them actually showing up.
Yeah.
So that no-show rate and cancellation rate seems to be pretty high for us. And I was curious what it's like for you guys.
Yeah, it's definitely higher this year for sure, and it's been increasing. I think you gotta figure out the combinations of your teams that are reaching out, like Boost, and then the CRM systems that are helping support the tracking of that, making sure that you map that internally to make sure that there's the right amount of touch points, and that your team is involved in making sure that we get them, because we've had patients that drop off, but then if you set up your follow up right and your persistence right, then you might catch them a month or two down the road where they're like, okay, I'll come in, kind of thing. But they have been more elusive for sure.
Yeah, we're noticing the same thing. And that's the beautiful thing about Boost is if they cancel, they don't show up, they automatically go back into Boost
Yeah,
queue to follow up on. So
yeah.
it's nice to have that.
But I also do, you know, I like to have the surgery counselors get some kind of connection before they come in, if possible, and to start developing rapport in a relationship. Because if the first time that they meet with the patient is time that the doctor hands them off, it's there's people that say it. It's clear you're the finance office. Like so you want to avoid. I try to tell them too. I know you're busy, but if you take 5 minutes or 10 minutes of your time on the front end, you can shave that 5 or 10 minutes off the other end. But you're creating a relationship that you're the guide and the confidant, and they're going to trust you throughout that process rather than you're the finance person, because then they have their guard up, right?
100%. No, I agree with you. I think that's a great idea. It's something that we need to discuss and probably implement. I like the idea of that. I mean, even if we have a patient, we try to stick with the same counselor. So they have developed that relationship. They have developed that rapport. If they need to reschedule the procedure or there's a cancellation, those are the ones that follow up because I don't know about you, but I remember every one of the patients and if they cancel for some reason. I'm like, wait a second, you were so excited about this. What happened? Let's figure this out together. And I want to get on the phone with them. Um, but it could be
Yeah.
tough. Sometimes they'll ghost you after that. You can't ever get in touch
Yeah,
with them.
it is. And once they've come in, you got to have a good way to continue with that persistence. So I want to ask you all what you do because we have a CRM that's which we put into place and we really forced our surgery counselors to use it. But I feel like they're going through the motions. They're just doing it because we're forcing them to do it. But it's like, I mean, I tell them this: if I were in your shoes, there's no way in hell that I would remember all the things that you have to remember on a daily basis, and all the ones that, let's say they canceled and you need to follow up, or they have many objections and they don't even know what their own objection is, and so you got to keep just piling through those objections and say, okay, I get it. Let me call you in a few days. So, do y'all have a CRM that you like and you use?
Yeah, we do. We use MD Prospects, and our
Okay.
counselors are phenomenal about doing the putting their notes in. So we'll put it in our EMR system, but we'll also put it in the MD Prospect, so we could then follow up. And we want the same counselor to do it, but they're not always available. So sometimes we'll have other people call and follow up on those patients. But they do a really good job of keeping those notes. But those notes are critical because if I need to jump in and make a call for Sally, I want to know what was said, what was the patient's mindset, and I mean, it's a 300-word dissertation they do on almost every patient that's really helpful for us if they were to cancel or if they didn't schedule. And my thing is, I what I talk to my counselors about all the time, your job's easier if you can get them to say yes before they leave the office because
Yeah,
your
for sure.
follow up's a whole lot less. If they say no, you're going to have to call them. They're not going to answer. You're going to call them, you're going to text them, you're going to email, and you're going to wait for a response. Then you're going to have to do it again 3 days later.
Mhm.
Your job is so much easier if you could find a way to get them to take that step forward. Now, they're more likely to fall off. I understand that.
Yeah,
But it's harder to walk backwards than it is to walk forward. And I
right.
feel as humans we generally follow the path of least resistance. If we
That's right.
make it easy and we make that process easy for them, they're going to continue to go forward unless something
Correct. Yeah, it's
roadblocks
harder to
them.
schedule later than it is to cancel later. Like if you get them on the books, well, okay, let me just keep moving, rather than, oh, I got to schedule later, and then that's less likely to happen, right?
Absolutely.
So how did you get? So we have MD prospects too, uh, but now how did you get them to? So how did you get them to use it and
Okay.
put all those notes in there?
Well, um, so I audit every single evaluation we do on a weekly basis. So I'll go through and I'll check the notes and I'll make sure that they've updated the reason that they didn't schedule or if they did schedule and what they scheduled for. And I track it meticulously. And then we use Microsoft Teams, and I'll just send them a message. And I normally do my reporting on Sunday, and I'll just say, "Hey, what's going on with this one? Uh, how are we doing there?" But most of the time, I don't have to because they do such a good job of updating the notes,
Okay.
and they may not do it always right after the patient. You got back to back evals, they will sometimes wait, but we give them
Yep.
about 24 hours to get all of those notes in, and then we just hold them accountable to it and ask them.
Okay. And kind of like to your point of path to least resistance, do you just say like pull up the schedule and then pull up MD prospects, just have both open all the time? Like how do you train the functional part of that?
Yeah, we just have them both up all the time. So, like, when
Yeah.
I open my computer, it automatically opens, my EMR system, MD Prospects, and a couple other, sites that I use all
Yeah.
the time.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I want to talk a little bit about language when it comes to objections and what is going to be most successful in terms of not sounding pushy, because I think that's the fear of our teams is okay, well, you're telling me to keep piling through these objections, but then what's the point of awkwardness and pushiness versus helping guide the patient? So how do you have those conversations with your surgery counselor?
Yeah, I think it's more about inquiring. So we have to listen to the patients. We have to understand what's truly keeping them from moving forward. And if we really believe that we're helping the patients and we're trying to come up with a way to help the patient accomplish their goal, I don't know how that could be pushy. You're really just trying to solve the problem. It's like a puzzle. It's like, okay, I hear this is what's going on. Well, what about this? Would this work? What do you think about this? And I don't see it necessarily as pushy, and I try not to. I've had it one time. I've been here 10 years. I've had one patient tell me that they felt like I was that used car salesman, and that's an offensive thing. And I don't ever want to feel like that, and I don't want my counselors to feel like that.
Right.
So I preach it a lot that we don't sell anything. That could be a double-edged sword because it is a sales position.
Yeah.
But if we take the approach that we're legitimately helping the patient, they came in because they want to see better. You just have to help them figure out how,
Hmm.
whether it's cost, time, fear, family, it doesn't really matter. You take each one of those objections and you become the problem solver and you work with them to figure it out.
Yep. Yep. I think that's probably what I can see is one of the biggest disconnects when it comes to the ability for someone to have that mindset versus the fear is that they're not connecting the value proposition of what the patient is receiving, and they're only seeing it from the perspective of me, surgery counselor, this is what I could afford, or this is, they're not, they're seeing it from that lens instead of really understanding that. I mean, at the end of the day, they're paying $4,000 or $5,000 for LASIK surgery. What other investment vehicle can you put that money into and then pay for it interest free over 2 years and get the amount of value that you're going to get? I can't think of anything. And it's just they're not connecting the dots there, you
Yeah.
know?
I had LASIK in '02, one of the best things that I ever did, right? I was a -7 and it changed my life. So anytime I see a patient it's -5, -6, -7, I'm extremely excited because I know the value is there. Like this is a life-changing procedure, and I get excited just kind of thinking about it and having the opportunity to talk to those patients.
Yeah.
I had one patient earlier this week. She called me. She was scheduled for a cataract surgery. She's a -17, and she called me in and she's like, "Yeah, I need to cancel that procedure." I'm like, okay, can you tell me a little bit more about it? And I asked her a little about it. She's like, oh, I see that you're a -17. I was like, why is it you want to cancel? She's like, well, the doctor was telling me that the cataracts really aren't that bad. And, I could wait. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you could wait, but you're -17. You do
Yeah.
have cataracts. Insurance is going to help pay for this procedure. Like, this is really life changing for you. You sure you want to cancel?
Mhm.
She's like, well, I don't know. Let me keep my appointment with Dr. Nasser, the surgeon, and I'll make a decision after this. Like, that's perfect. Well, why don't we do this? I'm going to keep everything on the schedule. After you talk to Dr. Nasser, if you decide you want to cancel, let me know and we'll cancel everything. There's no cancellation fee. But she stayed on because I was able to connect with her on how much it's going to impact her life. But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't ask. And I think that's where a lot of the disconnect is. It's like, oh, I want to cancel, or no, I don't want to do it, and that's enough. And it's
Right.
not.
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you, man. And to touch more, because I think the financial part it is more of an issue. It is. I mean, we understand the value of it, but to the average consumer, they're still learning about the value of these vision correction procedures. But when it comes to price, maybe you can tell me what you guys do. Do you allow your team to have a little flexibility when it comes to price? And we historically have always, and I can tell you what we've done recently, the results are pretty good so far. We'll see. Is we've gone more to set LASIK pricing and kind of like because we told them say our multifocal packages are cash pay procedures, and we don't discount those. Those are all set pricing. And so I think the fear initially is, well, they're going to say that down the street is offering it for $500 less. And do we want to lose a patient over $500? My answer is no. But I think what it's done so far is it's started to create a mindset that's a little different. It helps provide confidence in the value proposition as like, yeah, this is what our LASIK price is. And we've seen so far conversions stay pretty steady and average fee per eye come up a little bit. And it's been working so far, but it's early. So I'm curious where you guys are in the continuum of overcoming the price objection and giving them flexibility to come down.
Yeah, we used to. It was probably 2 or 3 years ago when we stopped doing that. And I did this as well because I noticed that a lot of our patients were getting the max discount on
Yeah, they go
LASIK. I'm like,
straight to
"What?"
that discount.
So I started measuring it, right?
Yeah.
And then I started tracking it and holding them accountable to those measures as well, and that improved a little bit. And then we developed a new financial, structure that already includes certain discounts, and that's the max discount. So they're not able to go in and make any additional adjustments on the discount now. The discounts are already factored in. So we're still getting the price that we want.
Yeah.
There's really no flexibility though. Like I'm not going to lose somebody over a couple $100. So if that were the case, they're going to come to me and say, "Hey, this is what's going on." They actually went down to Brooks down the street. This is what Brooks quoted. Okay, yeah, show me the price sheet. I'm happy to price match, right? But there's a little bit more accountability. Like they have to go to the CEO and say, "Hey, can we get a good price?"
Sure. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Where kind of as far as like the fear of losing somebody for like us over a few $100, which we don't want to do. But then on the other hand, creating that slippery slope of let me go ask the you start feeling like a salesperson. Let me go ask the finance guy what I
They
can
don't
do.
want to. They don't
Yeah.
want to, right? It breaks up the vibe. It lessens that relationship with the patient. So they don't. I rarely ever get them coming to me and asking those questions.
Yeah. Well, if you had somebody else, another CEO, another eye care practice, asking you, "Hey, we're having a tough time dealing with objections. My sales team is struggling," what's one of the first things that you tell them? Here's what you need to consider and start working on to help your team with objections.
It's a really good question. I think the true root of the objection issue is trust, and you've got to develop that trust early on, and confidence comes along with that, right? Because that confidence is going to help establish trust because you want to show the patient that you know what you're talking about and that you are going to guide them in the right direction. You're not misleading them, and you want to be authentic as well. So you have to show that passion. You have to show them that you truly are there to help. And if you have both the confidence and you have both the authenticity, that's going to establish some level of trust. And you just got to build that trust up. And then from there, you could overcome the objections confidently because now they trust what you're going to say. Anything you say otherwise is just a sales pitch. And you have to get past that sales pitch. You have to get them to believe you're on their team, which we should be, right? And that's what I want our team to really believe in is I am here to help you find a way to accomplish your goals. You don't mind wearing glasses after cataract surgery? Okay, I can help you with that. You want to get out of glasses after cataract surgery? I can help you with that. But it's finding a way to make that happen.
That's on point. I appreciate it, Randy. Hey, you mentioned that documentary. Do you remember the name? Because there's one that came out in 24. I think it was called like Broken Eyes or something like that. Are you talking about one that's coming out?
Yeah, that was it. That was Broken
Yeah.
Eyes. I just saw a bunch of comments on it like 2 days ago. So
Yeah.
Dr. Nasser sent it over to me. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
I heard a rumor. I don't know if
yeah.
it's true, like through the grapevine, that there's something else coming out on Netflix, another one or something. Or hopefully it's not, and it was this one that they're talking about. But I heard a rumor. I was just curious if you knew anything.
Yeah, it was he sent it to me. I don't have Facebook, but he sent me a Facebook post and there was a bunch of people that were just commenting from like 2 days ago. So I
Yeah.
agree with you. I'm hoping that it's nothing new.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a regurgitation, but
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It's going to impact us. Our focus is more on lens-based procedures and trying to shift more towards that. So, Dr. Nasser is one of 5 surgeons in the country that trains ICL for the other surgeons. So he's really big on that, and we believe in that technology.
Agree. Yeah, I think you got to focus too on getting the word out on all the other stuff you do. We do the ICLs as well, and just getting the patient stories out there, because we got to. I mean, the vast, vast, vast majority of the patients are getting outstanding outcomes. So so they're the ones that need to have a voice. So we continue to try to find ways to do that. Yeah.
Well, it's like anything else in this society. It's that vocal minority that really dominates the narrative.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's those people that have had a negative impact that go out and preach. But like I said, it's one of the best things that I ever did. I wore contacts all the time before, and I was constantly had eye infections. I was overwearing them, sleeping in my contacts. And as a young kid, it's just kind of what you do. And just being able to get rid of those was life changing. I remember after getting it done, I went to the convenience store and bought a pair of those, that $10 Pugs sunglasses and put them on and went to the lake, and didn't matter if you lose them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah.
that was a very impactful thing for me, and being able to convey that to a patient, I think, and I don't know this, but it makes me feel or seem a little bit more authentic because I've experienced it and I truly am passionate and excited about it.
Awesome. Well, Randy, I appreciate your time. It's been a great conversation. Hopefully a few people took some good nuggets from it, and hope you have a great week.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Very nice to meet you, Guido. Appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. And I also want to take the opportunity to thank our listeners for joining us today. If you want to keep up with the podcast and interesting conversations with our guests, please don't forget to subscribe and share us with your friends on social media. Another shout out to Boost Patients for producing the podcast. Boost helps ophthalmology practices get more new patients without spending a dime on marketing. You can learn more about them at their website, boostpatients.com, or check out the show notes. Hang in there, ophthalmology gurus. We'll get through the experience together. Have a great week.